Those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Jay Riff, I'm the moderator. Just a couple of things. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, with the national anthem, and then we'll get into the meeting and go on with the warrant articles. And before we get to that, I'll just get a few ground rules to go over. But to start, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is back there. So, I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rugged red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Okay, so first, as usual, everything's being recorded. Just a new thing for this year, we are being live streamed as well, so just so everybody knows that. So when you do speak, please try to come to the microphone so everybody here can hear what you're saying, and also anybody at home who may be watching on the live stream can hear it as well. The way the hearing will proceed, I will read the article. It'll then be moved and seconded, hopefully. If it doesn't, it won't go any further. After the motion has been seconded, we'll open the floor to debate. Once debate is ended, I will ask for a vote, and then it'll either pass or fail. So, as always, in the past, I do ask that everybody be civil. Try to keep your comments to a minute or less. If it goes over a little bit, once you get past 2 minutes, and feel free, anybody out there, they can call for the motion to end debate and we can move forward. So, that being said, reminder, non-residents, you do need permission to speak before you speak from the body. So if you're not a resident, you're going to speak, please identify yourself and we'll have to vote to allow you to speak. With that, I do know Tim Bilodeau is going to speak. He's the department, head of the Department for Water and Sewer. He's not a town resident, so rather than keep going through that process over and over, at this point, I would ask for a vote to allow him to speak since he's from Groveton, I believe. And does anybody have any issues with that? All in favor of Tim being able to speak? All those opposed? All right, good. We got that one out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to start with Article 2 of the this is the operating budget. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $7,146,634, which represents the operating budget. Said sum does not include any other warrant articles. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 2.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second Article 2.
Okay, motion second. Do we have any debate on Article 2? Discussion. All right, seeing none. All in favor of Article 2? All those opposed? Motion carries. Article 3. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $115,000 to be added to capital reserve fund accounts previously established for the purpose and the amounts indicated. Highway, $55,000, fire department, $40,000, police, $5,000, library, $5,000, cemetery, $10,000, for a total of $115,000. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I'll make the motion.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second that.
Okay. Do we have any discussion on Article 3? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I was just wondering why it was increased $45,000. Is included also, so I'm wondering if that's going on the report for every year going forward.
Okay. Grab the microphone, just identify yourself, I'm sorry. One thing I would tell you folks too, since last meeting, I've lost a lot of my hearing, so come from the microphone so I can hear you.
Yes, my name is Karen Anderson. I'm just on Article 3, the capital reserve funds. For years and years and years, it's been $70,000. I'm just curious, not to say I'm not going to vote for it, but the highway department went up $15,000. The fire department went up 20 to double it. Then you added the police, and then the rest of them is the same. So I was just curious to see why the town wanted to feel that they need to increase this.
Ed?
Edward Sampson, town manager. In recent years, we have diminished the amounts put into those capital reserve funds over the course of the last 15 years. They've gone down, down, down. Those are very important to make sure that we have monies available for infrastructure improvement, on some cases, for purchases. We found that in a couple of areas, we saw an additional amount of money we could take from revenues, and we applied them to those couple of capital reserve funds and increased them. But you're right, all of them need to be increased going forward. Started that process this year, unapplied revenue.
So basically, we think that if something happened out of the ordinary throughout the year, that you had sort of a backup to sort of or whatever.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Oh,
Rob Christie from Lancaster. I noticed there are also another $60,000 in warrant articles that are going towards the police and fire department and EMS department. So I'm wondering if we're putting all our current expenses in the warrant articles, why are we also salting away money into the capital reserve fund? I understand the need for a cushion, but it seems like we have a lot of money stashed away in the town. And the alternative to that money, of course, is return it to the taxpayers.
Things. The ability to put the money within those capital reserve funds enables us to create warrant articles going forward by withdrawing those monies from the capital reserve funds. So that's necessary. But as importantly, when there's a surplus fund balance, money's paid by the taxpayers that is not spent, which has been a tremendous, great practice of the town employees. We used to be, we do everything we could to spend every penny of our budget because we knew we wouldn't get it next year. Well, what I instill on these employees is, you save as much as you can. You will get your monies when they're needed. And we practice that to this day. Therefore, in many years, we are able to increase our capital reserve fund. Therefore, I'm sorry, not our capital reserve fund, we're surplus fund balance. And We make many purchases from that surplus fund balance. The greatest revenue generator has been our ambulance corps, which this number of changes taking place with that right now, but we anticipate that again to be on track to generate revenue.
I don't know. You had a follow-up,
Rob Christie responding to that. I noticed that we have $1,371,000 in our uncommitted reserve funds already. And I understand that that's a good idea in case there is an emergency. The state recommends that you keep between 5 and 17% of your budget in that reserve. We currently keep 12% in that reserve. So I'm all for meeting emergencies, but it seems like we're salting a lot of money away when there's an option to return some of it to the taxpayers for lower taxes. So I hope that the budget committee and the board and everybody will be very careful about salting money away when some of it could be returned. I don't want to be long-winded, but on the other hand, there is the opportunity to fall for the fallacy that if it comes out of the uncommitted reserve fund, it doesn't come out of your taxes. The answer is it did come out of your taxes the previous year. So I would ask that the budget committee and the select board consider that in allocating their expenses.
Thank you. Anyone else? Proceed.
Lizzie Wyman, I'm just wondering, you referred to the surplus fund balance. Is that the same thing as the capital reserve fund? Or if not, what's the difference between
Okay, try one.
The capital reserve funds are identified within certain departments for certain purposes, and exclusively for those purposes as described. The unreserved fund balance is monies unspent. They're taxpayers' monies that have been saved. And in the savings, we do at times use monies in the surplus fund balance to offset expenses and lowering the budget for the following year. But the total that you read from, Rob, if the expenses in this year's budget are approved, that surplus fund balance will not be nearly that much. I don't think this fool thing's working, so I'm going to throw it away. My ears kept changing. And I can assure you that there are many, many man-hours from the department heads up through to the Board of Selectmen spent reviewing and identifying an absolute must for a budget. No gravy. It's a long process, and there's tons of discussion. It involves the people, and as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the most transparent municipalities in the region, whether you like it or not.
Go ahead, one more.
I assume you're asking me if I like it or not. I do like the fact that this town is very well run. It's just that a lot of money is put in a lot of different areas, and we can conserve. As the treasurer of the Conservation Fund, I'm very careful. We're all very careful. We've come in right on our budget. We try to plan ahead. The only thing that I object to is like when we get the warrant articles from the school district, they say it won't cost you anything because it comes out of the reserve fund. And I'm just saying that the reserve fund could be smaller and still protect the town. The MS1 report gives the ability to return some of that money back to the taxpayers. So I think the taxpayers should be rewarded as well as the departments and the select board for the good work they do. That's my point. Thank you.
I think we've covered the issue. We're ready to vote. All those in favor of Article 3? All those opposed? Article 3 passes. Article 4, the city of town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,440 $48 to be added to the Industrial Development Capital Reserve Fund previously established, with said funds to come from the unassigned fund balance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I'll move Article 4.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second Article 4.
Okay, any discussion? Ma'am?
I was just wondering why that had increased from last year. Last year was around $8,500, and now it's about $22,000. So I was wondering if there was a special project going on or whatever.
I'll answer.
Go ahead.
These funds come back as the loans that the businesses in town are eligible for. So last year, we got more money back, more loans were given, increased the revenue back.
So it's just mostly a loan thing.
Yep. And we need the town to approve it, to put it back in the money, back into the fund.
All right, good. You don't loan on parentheses would have
Would it help? Okay.
quite sure what that was.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Any others?
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor of Article 4? All those opposed? Article 4 passes. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $400,000 to be added to the Colonel Town Capital Reserve Fund, previously established for said funds. What did I say?
400,000.
No, I'm sorry, wow. Trying to be generous. Sorry about that. Let me start over. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $400 to be added to the Colonel Town Capital Reserve Fund, previously established for said funds to come from the unassigned fund balance. The amount represents monies from donations to Colonel Town Recreation. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 5.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second Article 5.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of Article 5? All opposed? Article passes. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to establish a dispatch services capital reserve fund under the provisions of RSA 3511 for future costs of dispatch service for the town's emergency services, police, fire, and ambulance, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in this fund with said funds to come from the unassigned fund balance. Further, name the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend from said fund. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I'll move Article 6.
I'll second it, Mr. Moderator.
Move seconded. Any discussion? Lucy?
This says to establish, so I'm assuming it's kind of a new tactic or a new approach, and I'm wondering how this was paid for in the past.
Okay, I'm sorry, I did not hear you.
It says to establish
Yep,
a dispatch services capital reserve fund.
correct.
So this wasn't paid, supported out of the capital reserve fund previously, apparently. It was just supported by line item, or why did it change?
Previously, dispatch services came from the state, and we didn't have to pay for it. We are preparing for the time, which is coming soon, that they will no longer provide those services. So we are going to have to start paying for the dispatch.
So you're anticipating that cost. Thank you.
Yes.
Rob?
Again, Rob Christie, as you can tell, I stay up late at night with my sharp pencil and look at the finances. I noticed between Article 3 and this article and Article 20, we're stashing something on the order of $415,000 into funds. $250,000 for a water tank that hasn't even been figured out yet. Dispatch services, we haven't lost dispatch services yet from the state. I understand it's important to plan ahead, but on the other hand, $415,000 taxpayer money being stashed away seems like a lot of money. And I'm all for the capital reserve, we discussed that, but dispatch, we don't know how that's going to come out, and the water tank, which we'll discuss later, we don't know how that's going to come out. So it seems like, you know, $400,000+ going into an account for things that we may have to deal with. Seems like a lot of money, so I'd like everyone to consider that when they vote.
Okay?
So, real quick, I'd like to speak on that. Dispatch will be ending probably the end of this year, 2021, and we'll be contracting with Grafton County, and that is anticipated to cost roughly $56,000 a year. So that's why we have to set this money aside.
You have a follow-up?
Again, Rob Christie following up. I've been in some conversations with dispatch as well, and I understand downstate, they're waiting to hear from a proposal from somebody. And it may or may not end, we don't know that for sure. I appreciate the planning ahead. It's not that I don't like dispatch services, because I hope they come if I call them. It's just that we got $415,000 going in unknown or possibly occurring costs.
Okay.
So that's my point.
Okay, just to rebut that, Rob, if we don't set this money aside and dispatch ends, then the select board's gonna have to find out how to come up with the money. If dispatch ends and we don't have the money set aside, then the select board has to figure out how to come up with it.
Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor of Article 6? All those opposed? Article passes. Article 7, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $76,000 for the purpose of paying out of the severance package and accrued vacation time with said funds to come from the unassigned fund balance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I'll move Article 7.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second Article 7.
Okay, any discussion?
I don't generally read the auditor's report in the town report, but I did this year. Lo and behold, it mentions, trying to remember their term, extended personnel benefits. In other words, benefits that are being paid after somebody's no longer on the payroll. And I understand that there's a bit of a severance package going with Ed when he leaves. And I'd like to hear that explained. In most other social service programs and municipal programs and private businesses, there's a limit as to how far you can carry benefits. In other words, you get 30 days of vacation, you take it within 2 years, or you lose that vacation time. I don't know what the benefits are for it. I don't know what that package looks like. I haven't heard any explanation. But if, in fact, we're paying for unused vacation that's 2, 3, 4, 6 years overdue, I think the select board ought to address that and come closer in line with what standard personnel practices are for severance packages. So A, I'd like an explanation what those dollars are, and 2, some notion if you would consider putting limits on that to get us sort of in line with the rest of the universe. Thank you.
It's already done.
And then,
Exactly as you explained it, Peter, there is now limits that an employee, and we have many long-term employees, which makes it very difficult. They could accumulate up to 5 weeks of vacation. They have additional days for holidays and personal days. And there are times that they're unable to take that time off. It doesn't fit the schedule. But it's been decided this year that you use it or lose it. But there is a lot of hours accumulated by a number of employees. I have accumulated a lot,
I haven't calculated exactly what it is. I am retiring this year. I hope to get the money. But going forward, whatever you're allowed annually is the limit. You use it or lose it. So I guess that's all I got to say.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor of Article 7? I'm in favor. All those opposed? Okay, Article 7 passes. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 for the purpose of completing the masonry work on the handicap ramp at the town hall, with said funds to come from the unassigned fund balance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 8.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second Article 8.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of Article 8? All opposed? Article passes. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $115,000 for the purpose of purchasing a new 1.5-ton pickup truck with plow and body for the highway department. Said funds to come from the unassigned fund balance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 9.
Mr. Moderator, I second it.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Yep.
I'm a little lost here because,
Yeah, come on up, I can't hear you.
just wondering, like, instead of just, going through the appropriate way of doing this, it seems like you're asking for a debate without having someone explain it first. So instead of just, asking it, maybe the select board is someone appropriate, they might sort of describe it a little better so we can understand a little better and have more of an informed, way to make our decision going forward. I mean, just raising, we didn't even discuss the budget. All of a sudden, bing, bang, boom, it was like the operating budget it was passed. Even though it increased $788,000. So I'm just wondering, instead of just bing, bang, boom, could we, each article, whatever that's appropriate, is this the time that, the highway or the fire or the police need a new cruiser? Is it 3 years off or whatever like that? Instead of just going back and forth and having someone ask, I was just wondering, as a courtesy, if maybe we can get a one-line explanation on what we're really voting on.
Yeah. Two things on that. First of all, I mean, the budget is printed. I expect that people are coming here that read through the budget
Yeah.
and they understand that. Second, I don't want to waste people's time if I look out and people don't have a question. I'm assuming they understand the warrant article and they know what they're voting on. But however, if I'll put it in vote. If people want to have more discussion, other than me reading it and asking to see if anybody has a question on it. If you want more detail, raise your hand.
I'm not really asking for, more debate. I'm just asking for a little explanation on what each article is and what the town expects us to understand so we can vote on it. That's all. A one-line version.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna put it in vote because, Rob.
Rob Christie again. There's this really cool thing called the Budget Committee, and they work hard and they meet often. And then they have a public hearing. And at that public hearing, which was, 3 weeks ago or so, that's the best time to ask all those questions, because everybody who can answer them is there. And that's a public occasion. And I'm kind of sorry to say that it was only me and 2 other people that came from the public. So I agree with you. We should have this stuff explained. But on the other hand, the town does provide a beautiful opportunity to ask all these questions. And so I'd encourage everybody to come to the budget hearings and ask the questions then. Because I think, as Mr. Moderator says, this is supposed to be as efficient as possible.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make it as efficient. And most of my think are pretty self-explanatory. But again, I'll put it to vote. If all of you folks want me to get into more discussion after I read it, or you just want to wait for people to ask questions if they have questions. If you want me to read more, or ask more questions or provide more detail, raise your hand. Do you want me to just read the article and wait and see if people have questions? Raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to keep reading my presentation. So I think we're on Article 9. I think we had a discussion, so all those in favor of Article 9? All those opposed? Article 9 passes. Okay, Article 10. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $69,129 for the second payment on the 3-year lease purchase agreement entered into in 2020 for a sidewalk plow for the highway department, with said funds to come from the unassigned fund balance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 10.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second Article 10.
Okay, we have a discussion. Okay, all those in favor of Article 10? All those opposed? Article 10 passes. Article 11, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $52,399 for the purpose of purchasing a new police cruiser with said funds to come from the unassigned fund balance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 11.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second Article 11.
Okay, any discussion on Article 11? Okay, all those in favor of Article 11? All those opposed? Okay, Article 12, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 for the purpose of purchasing 20 air cylinders and a fire hose for the fire department, with said funds to come from the unassigned fund balance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I'll move Article 12.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion on Article 12? Okay, all those in favor of Article 12? All opposed? 12 passes. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $35,000, the second payment on the 3-year lease purchase agreement entered into in 2020 for 3 cardiac monitors for the fire department, with said funds to come from the unassigned fund balance. A motion.
Mr. Moderator, I'll move Article 13.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second Article 13.
Any discussion on Article 13? Okay, all those in favor of Article 13? All those opposed? I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me redo this one. The escape clause, typically the contract will have something where if one party doesn't perform or there's a reason to get out, you can get out of it. That's all it is. I don't know what the escape clause is in this one. Yeah, if the town votes it down, then they can get out. So if you didn't pass it. I can't hear you.
Use the mic.
Is there a fine or a fee to get out of that if you exercise it?
No.
I don't know the answer.
Oh, you want to answer?
No, you just know.
Not be associated with it. It's allowed by a vote of this meeting. Either we'll accept it and move forward, or you can tell us, no, we're not going to buy new monitors, and we're done.
All right, so I'm going to review Article 13, okay? See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $35,000 for the second payment on the 3-year lease purchase agreement entered into in 2020 for 3 cardiac monitors for the fire department, who said funds to come from the unassigned fund balance. This lease agreement contained an escape clause. I have a motion.
Mr. Moderator, I'll move Article 13.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second Article 13.
Okay. Any more discussion on Article 13? All those in favor of Article 13? All opposed? It passes. Article 14, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $116,350 for the purpose of purchasing 895 water meter radio transmitters for the water department, with said funds to come from the Water Enterprise Fund unassigned fund balance.
Mr. Moderator, I move the motion. Article 14.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second Article 14.
Okay. Any discussion on Article 14? All those in favor of Article 14? All opposed? Article 14 passes. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $113,890 for the purpose of upgrading the SCADA system, with said funds to come from the Water Enterprise Fund, unassigned fund balance. The SCADA system allows almost all functions of the water treatment plant and water distribution system to be alarmed, monitored, and adjusted remotely. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 15.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second that.
Okay. Discussion on Article 15. Okay, all those in favor of Article 15? All opposed? Article 15 passes. Article 16, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,734 for the purpose of purchasing 2 chemical feed pumps at the water treatment facility, with said funds to come from the Water Enterprise Fund unassigned fund balance. Motion.
Mr. Moderator, I'll move Article 16.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second Article 16.
Okay, any discussion on Article 16? All those in favor of Article 16? All opposed? Article 16 passes. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $110,000 for the purpose of rehabilitating 20 sewer manholes with said funds to come from the Sewer Enterprise Fund unassigned fund balance.
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 17.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second Article 17.
Okay, discussion on Article 17. All right, all those in favor of Article 17? All those opposed? Article 17 passes. Okay. Article 18, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $94,575 for the purpose of purchasing a new sewer line jetter machine with said funds coming from the Sewer Enterprise Fund unassigned fund balance. Do I have a motion?
That's me. Mr. Moderator, I move Article 18.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion on Article 18? Rob?
Rob Christie again. I just wondered, could somebody clarify what the what is an enterprise fund, unassigned fund balance, and how does that differ from the general unassigned fund balance? I think enterprise means it's something that the town charges fees for. In other words, water, sewer. Yes. Okay, so an enterprise fund means it's like a business within the town. The difference between 911 service, which is a town service, and ambulance transport, which they get to bill for. But I just want to make sure, since it seems to be different from the regular unassigned fund balance, that everybody has a chance to find out what that means. Someone who can speak to that?
Exactly what it is. Lancaster water and sewer users, not everybody in town is provided that service, but those water and sewer users pay a fee for the use, and that is in that enterprise fund. Those enterprise funds stand alone. They're not lapsing within the general fund. They're maintained exclusively for those purposes. And as they generate a surplus balance, such as happened today, we're asking to spend those for needs for that purpose today.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of Article 18? All opposed? Article 18 passes. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $24,633 for the purpose of purchasing a new sewer grinder for the main pump station with said funds to come from the Sewer Enterprise Fund unassigned fund balance. Motion.
Mr. Moderator, I'll move Article 19.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second Article 19.
Any discussion on Article 19? Okay, all in favor of Article 19? All opposed? Article 19 carries. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1 million for the purpose of adding a water storage tank at the water plant intake to help with pressure and volume to those water users fed directly from the intake, with $250,000 to come from the unassigned fund balance, and the remaining $750,000 to come from grant funding. The special warrant article will be a non-lapsing appropriation for RSA 32:7, paragraph 6, and will not lapse until the water storage tank is completed on or by March 9th, 2026, whichever is sooner. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 20.
Mr. Moderator, I'll second Article 20.
Okay. Discussion on Article 20.
Rob Christie again. $1 million is a lot of money. We've got $1,500,000 being spent on water and sewer. And I understand that this is against $750,000 from a grant, but the grant hasn't been applied for. And I have looked into who the water users fed directly from the intake. At the budget hearing, a couple of users were mentioned. I've had a chance to talk to those users that were mentioned there, and they didn't really express a need, or they felt this was premature in one case, and in another case they said they didn't see a need for it. Now I understand we have to plan ahead if we want to get in line for a grant, but $1 million is a lot of money. Only $250,000, only $250,000 comes from our unassigned fund balance. But this article ties that money up for 5 years. That's our reserve fund, our balance fund, and I feel a little bit like we're speculating here. We haven't even written a grant. We don't even know if the tank can be built, and the people who are cited as end users that need it don't seem to be as feeling as needful as has been expressed. So I would like to express my concern about the amount of money that we're tying up, our taxpayer money. And $250,000 that could be returned to the taxpayers to lower the tax rate. I'm all for anticipated needs, and I'm definitely for water because I think that's the best thing we have in Lancaster. But this seems like a big slug of money. So I have to say that I'm opposed at this time to committing that amount of money.
Right.
It is a big amount of money, but there is a need, if we have a major event in town, to have that water supply. And it does tie up the money for the specified amount of time, but if we don't pre-plan it, as you said, we can't apply for the grant. So at that point, you're kind of in a catch-22, and nothing will happen unless we obtain the grant, from what I understand.
In the future, if you need it, you may end up having to pull up the entire $1 million.
The application for the grant has already been
Submit it.
initiated. All of this is contingent upon the grant being accepted or being approved. In addition, we're appropriating up to $250,000 at this time, but my negotiations with the hospital, who is a key player in this whole thing, is that they will assist with it's a 20% match, and that's where the $250,000 comes from. Nothing is guaranteed. We may or may not receive it. If we don't receive it, it's dead in the water. We're not doing it. If we receive the grant, there's additional means that I believe are solid leads to get that funding. Tim Bilodeau will speak to the need and the reason why this is necessary.
Go ahead, Tim. Hello, Tim Bilodeau. I take care of the water and wastewater department. Right now, we have 2 reservoirs in town. One is out on Route 3, and the other one is up behind Prospect Street. Neither of these 2 reservoirs can feed any water in the case of an emergency, whether it was a fire or a water main break, to any of the residents or businesses east of the covered bridge and also
the railroad tracks on Middle Street. Every drop of water that comes from the water plant will only supply these people on the east side of town. So a lot of the reason why these people are probably saying they haven't had any issues is because there hasn't really been a large demand of water on that side of town. In the event of a fire, everybody from the water treatment plant to basically the covered bridge, depending on the duration of the fire, will run out of water, because the water treatment plant can only put out 350 gallons a minute, and a fire can use up to 750 to 1,000 gallons a minute. So the quick math is, in the event of a large fire or water main break, the water treatment plant is going to run out of water, and neither of the reservoirs on the opposite side of town can supply water back that direction. Fortunately, Lancaster is a gravity system, so we don't pump any water at all, which is pretty amazing. But the downside of that is because we're not a pump system, we cannot reverse flow from storage that is ample on one side of town to another side of town. So there's a couple other benefits to a reservoir out there. I mean, I can go on and on and on. But another thing is the water treatment plant has to run continuously, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to provide water to Lancaster. And we use about anywhere between 350,000 to 400,000 gallons per day. So we have to produce that much per day. The downside is because we're a surface water supply, when the brook that we draw from is very dirty from spring runoff or heavy rains, we still have to produce water, and we still have to filter water. And at times, the water in Lancaster has a slight yellow tint to it because we have to treat the water that we're getting because there's no other source. If you had 1 million gallons of storage over there, you would basically have, also a 2-day supply of water to help ease the burden of the water treatment plant during times of, spring runoff, heavy flow. And then it would also provide fire protection and water to the residents on the east side of town.
Okay. Rob?
I'd just like to say, if Tim says we need it, we probably need it. I'm not questioning him or the water department's judgment. What I'm talking about here is tying up $250,000 of our cushion for 5 years for something that's just a twinkle in the eye right now. And I also have to comment that I've had conversations with the hospital, and they are in my conversations, they are much less committed than 20%. I asked, is there a firm contract? Are you willing to do this? And they said, it might be, but we're still in the very preliminary stages of studying it. So don't misunderstand. I'm not questioning you. I don't want my house to burn down, but I want the town hall to still be there. But I'm just saying that tying up the money bothers me on an uncertain situation. And there are a lot of guarantees or commitments that are being spoken of that don't match the conversations I've had with the people who are saying they're committed.
Okay, I think the point's been made. Anybody else? Lucy?
I don't know anything about this, hence have a couple questions. What I understand from what you've been saying, I believe, is that we use treated water for fires.
Right.
It all goes through our water filtration plant to be put on fires. Okay, that seems a little odd to me, given the cost of the treatment and everything. I mean, historically, New England had fire ponds, and they took the water out of the rivers and such. So I'm just wondering we do have lots of water here, so what about fire ponds? What about the Israel River? And can't there be a way of ancillary water for such situations without drawing it through our filtration system first? Seems like an inappropriate use of that system. But thanks for your hard work.
Well, basically, she's correct. Every fire hydrant you see in town that is a typical fire hydrant is tied to the water distribution system, which is treated water, and it's been chlorinated, and it's the same water that when you open the faucet, that's what comes out. As far as I know, almost every town that I've ever been around in the 30 years I've been doing this, all their fire hydrants are tied to their distribution system. I mean, we struggle to keep the aging distribution system functioning properly as it is now. So I couldn't imagine having a separate system for
Tim,
fire.
real quick, just that, if you had to run a separate system just for fire, that's more or less $1 million. There we go, all right. Okay. Anybody else on Article 20? All those in favor of Article 20? All those opposed? Article 20 passes. Article 21, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,921 for the support of Northern Human Services White Mountain Mental Health. Is there anybody here to speak on that?
Just to give numbers,
Just introduce yourself first. Introduce yourself first.
this is Suzanne Gations Olson, I'm a resident in Lancaster, and so last year Northern served 40 individuals in Lancaster, and of that, the uninsured or underinsured amount that we gave was over $18,000, almost 19. And we're asking for just a small piece of that to help us continue to be able to give services to people at a low cost.
So I need a motion to move this. Got a motion? Do I have a second? I have a second. Okay. We have a bunch of seconds back there. Any other discussion on Article 21? Do we have any questions? Okay, all those in favor of Article 21? All opposed? 21 passes. Article 22, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,500 for the support of the Northern Gateway Regional Chamber of Commerce. Do I have a motion on that? If we want to move it? I got a motion, do I have a second to move it? Okay. Discussion?
John Drowski, I'm not a resident of the town, but I'm the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to have permission to speak to this article.
All those in favor of John speaking? All opposed? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. First of all, we'd like to thank the town for all the support throughout the years for the Chamber of Commerce. This year, I don't think there's anybody that has not been affected by the virus. Our job description changed quite a bit this year. And for the chamber, your chamber here in town partnered with Colebrook and Berlin. We applied for a $260,000 grant specifically for PPE for the town, all the towns we represent. So we were able to purchase over 500,000 masks, distribute them. We distribute masks, rubber gloves, spray, sanitizer, disinfectant wipes, digital thermometers. We supplied them to all our businesses, as well as the hospitals, churches, funeral homes, even Zelda got them. So, I mean, and we still have sanitizer in case anybody needs it. But this is what we've been doing, trying to protect our businesses, and it was a hard struggle, and we'd like to thank, Troy was there handing out stuff, but we'd like to thank the Cobb family as well for letting us use Sherman Motors as a distribution site, for spreading this out and for helping all the businesses, and we thank you for everything you've done for us, and we'll continue to work for you. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else on Article 22? All those in favor of Article 22? All those opposed? Article 22 passes. Article 23, see if the town... Okay, Article 23, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,000 for the support of the caregivers who serves the needs of senior citizens in the community. Do we have a motion? Got a motion? Do we have a second? A few seconds. Okay? Right.
I'm Barbara Pear, and I'm the director at Caleb Caregivers. We provide free services to seniors over 60 in Lancaster. This includes transportation to Dartmouth, Boston, as well as any other services that help our seniors stay independent and in their home. Last year, our clients increased from 60 to over 115, 40 of which are Lancaster residents. I'm asking for the increase in town money to help offset the increase in volunteer drivers' mileage reimbursement and the lack of fundraising that we were able to do. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor of Article 23? All opposed? Article carries. Article 24, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,775 to support the Tri-County Community Action Programs to include fuel and electrical assistance, weatherization, transportation, homeless intervention, and prevention, guardianship, RSVP, and workforce programs. Do we have a motion? Got a motion? Do we have a second? Second, put it back. Okay, anybody here to talk about that? Come on down.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jeannie Robillard. I'm the CEO of Tri-County CAP. Thank you to the town of Lancaster for your past support. As you may know, we did something...
Are you a Lancaster resident?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Oh, do I need to, I forgot to ask permission.
Formality, yes.
I'll back away from the mic.
All those in favor, let her speak. All opposed. All right, carry on. I don't recognize people with masks all the time.
It's tough, I gotta say. Okay, so this year we did our municipal requests a little bit differently. Historically, we asked for support from municipalities for one or two of our programs, when in fact we might be operating many, many more programs in that community. So this year we're asking for $8,775,000 to support the 10 programs that operate in the town of Lancaster. We served last year 777 people through fuel assistance, USDA food distributions, service link, homeless outreach and prevention, guardianship, transit programs, weatherization, home heating repair where we replace furnaces, and the total amount value of the services that we put into the town of Lancaster were $660,256. I also have my staff with me in the back. If anyone has any questions about any services in particular, I'm always happy to take questions, or anyone can call our office and speak to one of us at any time.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments? Look like it? Okay. All those in favor of Article 24? All opposed? Article 24 passes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, Article 25. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,000 to help support the Center for New Beginnings in Littleton, which provides counseling and mental health services to individuals throughout the North Country. Do I have a motion? Oh, motion way back there. Do I have a second? I have a second. Okay, anybody here to talk about that? I can't see that.
Who made the motion? Name? Oh, Chuck. Hi, Chuck. I got you now. Thank you.
Okay, no one's here to talk about it, so all those in favor of Article 25? All opposed? Article carries. Article 26, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $17,991 for the support of North Country Home Health and Hospice Agency. Do I have a motion? Motion? And do I have a second? I got a second. Go. Anybody here to talk about this one? Great.
I'm Lindsay Foss. I'm a non-resident. I'd like to request permission to speak.
Okay, all those in favor, let her speak. All opposed? Go for it.
Thank you. So I'm a physician assistant. I work with North Country Home Health and Hospice Agency. We provide 3 different programs to our communities: home health services, hospice services, and palliative care services. We, in the town of Lancaster. In the past year, we served 61 clients, and through serving those clients, we performed almost 3,000 visits. We provide care through nurses, aides, PT, OT, homemaker services, social services, and we're grateful to be able to support Lancaster and their people.
Okay. Any questions, discussion? Okay, all those in favor of Article 26? All opposed? Article 26 passes. Article 27, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,882 for the town's share of the operating budget of Mount Washington Regional Airport for the current fiscal year. Have a motion. You got a motion? Do I have a second? Motion second, okay. Anybody here talking on behalf of the airport? Discussion? Rob?
It's a lot of money. There aren't that many planes from Lancaster. But if we think about what it would take to replace that facility, I think it's worth the money that we spend. They have over half of their budget they achieve from selling aviation fuel, from rentals. So I think that that's a good thing. If we have an emergency and we need air support to this area, there we go. So I'm speaking in favor of it.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, all in favor of Article 27? All those opposed? Article 27 passes. Article 28, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,000 for the support of the Lancaster Soup Kitchen. Need a motion? Got a motion? You got a second? Okay, a second? Okay, Lucy, you're going to talk about it?
Yeah, I'd like to amend this to maybe, it just occurred to me, but so I don't know, maybe double it, or maybe even to $5,000 under the circumstances. It seems to me we're spending hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars on town infrastructure. We could afford to be a little more generous to the people who don't have money to feed themselves. So I'd like to amend it to, I don't know what the town would agree to. I expect they would not agree to 5, but maybe double it, amend it to 2,000.
You're making a motion to double it from $1,000 to $2,000.
I guess, yes.
Okay, so we have a motion to increase it from 1,000 to 2,000. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a second. Now we're going to vote to amend the article. This is just a vote to amend the article from 1,000 to 2,000. All in favor of amending the article from 1,000 to 2,000? All those opposed? All right. That's close. Okay, all those in favor? Build up for a second. Okay, opposed to amending? Okay. The motion carries to amend it to $2,000. So now, we have to redo the article. Article 28 is amended to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,000 for the support of the Lancaster Soup Kitchen. We have a motion. Do I have a second? Motion and second. Okay. Any further discussion on the Article 28 as amended? Okay. All those in favor of Article 28? All those opposed? Article 28 carries as amended. Article 29, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,000 for the support of the Lancaster Food Pantry. Need a motion. Got a motion, and anybody second? Peter, you're seconding? Okay.
Ta-da. Should be no surprise. I'd like to amend this to $2,000 as well. If you think about this, this is pocket change for most of us. If we spread it out through the community.
All right, so we have a motion to amend this to increase it from $1,000 to $2,000. Do we have a second? We have a second. Okay, now we're voting just on the amendment. All those in favor of amending Article 29 to increase it from 1,000 to 2,000? Yeah. All those opposed to the amendment from 1,000 to 2,000? All right, so Article 29, the amendment passes. So I'm going to read Article 29 again. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,000 for the support of the Lancaster Food Pantry. I need a motion. And a second. Okay, we got both of those. Okay. Any further discussion on Article 29 as amended? Okay, all those in favor of Article 29? All those opposed? Article 29 passes as amended. Article 30, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,034 to assist with the cost of North Country Weekend Backpack Program. Do we have a motion? Okay, I got a motion back there. Do we have a second? 2 seconds, all right. Want to talk about that? It's Article 30.
Linda Ogle, 44% of the children in our region face food insecurity. Our efforts are to feed these children as many as we can reach in the Northeast. We cover Whitefield, Lancaster, Groveton, Stark, and North Stratford. Our service is 100% volunteer, and we rely totally on the generosity of the towns and the generosity of the community to support our efforts. And given COVID, it has become very difficult for us to purchase food at reasonable prices so that we can reach all the children. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on Article 30? Okay. All those in favor of Article 30? All those opposed? Article 30 passes. Article 31, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $500 for the support of the Article 31, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $500 for the support of the New Hampshire North Country Veterans Incorporated. We have a motion. Got a motion in the back, and a second? Okay, we have a second. Anybody here to talk about that? Okay. All those in favor of Article 31? All opposed? Article 31 passes. Article 32, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,000 for the purpose of supporting the clients of Androscoggin Valley Home Care who live in Lancaster. This was submitted by petition, and we have a motion. We got a motion. We have a second? And we got a second, a couple seconds. Okay, anybody here to discuss this? Resident or non-resident?
Non-resident Tara McKillop, Director of AD Home Care, requesting permission to speak.
All those in favor of letting her speak? All opposed? Go ahead.
So, for those of you that aren't familiar with us, this is our first time requesting support from Lancaster. We're a home care agency and we support seniors and disabled adults in the community. We served 45 residents in Lancaster in 2020. We have 1,550 visits, totaling over 3,000 hours of service to people in Lancaster. Our goal is to have seniors live independently and safely for as long as possible in their home and prevent nursing home care. We employ 3 people that live in the town of Lancaster, and as you know, during the pandemic, this has been a really important time for seniors to be able to be home and avoid the hospitals and the nursing homes. We get referred people by their PCPs, by their families, and by the clients themselves. and they receive nursing, personal care, and homemaking. I appreciate your consideration.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? More discussion? Okay. All in favor of Article 32? All opposed? Article 32 carries. All right. Article 33. See if the town will take such measures as needed to implement video recordings and streaming of all public meetings in the town of Lancaster, subject to New Hampshire right to know laws. Said recordings shall be made available within 5 business days on the town website, submitted by petition. We have a motion. We have a second. A few seconds, all right. Any discussion?
That should be no surprise by now. I put this petition together. I feel very strongly that in the democracy, transparency is the fertilizer that keeps it going. If you can't see what's going on, people can't be involved, can't be informed. So I keep hoping that the town will pass this. Our town hall is, our town office where the select board meet is very inaccessible. Very few people go to the meetings. Additionally, the press are highly taxed these days about getting out, and everybody can go online and see what happens, but watch it while it's happening, as they do in Gorham. They have an interactive program in Gorham. It's on Zoom. They're filmed. All the meetings are in one room. It's costing $3,000 a year. So I hope you'll support this.
One thing, I'm just talking to a citizen right now, take off the moderator after for a second. The only thing I question is there's no dollar amount on this. When you say as take such measures as needed, there's no dollar amount to vote on. So I'm not.
Well, last year I put a dollar amount on it, and I was told it was too high, and I don't know what the dollar amount would be. It's up to the select board and the town manager to figure this out. I think they can. I think it'd be very easy to do with a computer, with an owl, which we already have, which costs almost nothing, at least. So I gave up on putting a dollar amount on because I didn't want to be told it was too much. And so now I'm being asked what the dollar amount is, which is why I gave you the figure for Gorham.
Rob Christie again. In spirit of full disclosure, I'm part of the group that brought Flume Media in to record and stream this meeting, so obviously I'm in favor of it. To help with the cost structures, I think the way this motion is structured, it gives discretion to the town to look closely at what this would cost. And I've seen basically 3 or more alternatives. The first alternative is to do it in-house with equipment that we already have with our internet connection. The second is to hire an outside expert for service to do this. And that's what we did for the meeting today. And I've looked into the cost, as Lucy says, Rosa, it's the same thing. As Lucy says, I think Gorham, the cost is on the order of $3,000, but that just includes the work that's being paid for. The high estimate that I've gotten, and this would be for all bells, all whistles, everything that possibly fell under right to know being recorded, is on the order of $21,000 or $22,000. So you could do it in-house, you could do it low end at $3,000, or you could go full out at 21 or 22. I think Littleton goes full out and probably around the $20,000 level. As far as equipment is concerned, Lucy mentioned that the town already owns an owl, which is about $2,000. You need a large screen TV and a laptop and wires, cables, et cetera, et cetera. So since we already own the owl, maybe $1,500 worth of between a large screen TV, so people in the room can see what's going on, and a laptop, maybe $400 or $500. And then it requires some sort of subscription to a streaming service generally, and a government Zoom account, which allows 12 users, in other words, 12 different committees could use the service, runs about $2,000 a year. So to clarify and summarize, maybe $2,000 worth of new equipment, $2,000 a year, streaming costs, and then if you hire it done, somewhere between $3,000 and $20,000. Now, we just spent $1 million on a water tank. We're spending $115,000 on a pickup truck, and unfortunately, Lancaster is turning out to be one of the only places in the state that doesn't stream anything, according to the Caledonian survey. So it's the industry standard. It's fairly normal, and I think everyone will find that it's actually fairly convenient and useful as we get used to doing it. So I hope that helps.
Anybody else on that?
Chad Fillion. I'm not going to speak to cost because I think there's a conflict of interest there because it was hired. William Perkins, an assignment editor for MUR, has contacted me already today for a copy of this for tonight's news. People want to see it statewide. It's more about freedom of information. It's more about just dissemination of info so people can have it. I covered last year at this time, there was a meeting at Littleton Regional Healthcare. MUR contacted me. It was a potential COVID case back in January, and we ran that. MUR didn't have anybody up here. Brent Roth Television provided that to the state. In this time of sharing of information, is it as ubiquitous as it is with social media? It can very easily be misconstrued, altered, shared through the telephone game where it becomes something that it wasn't. Having a presence to record it for what it was helps set a tone of what the truth is. And I think that's what's important in sharing that truth. As he went through a lot of costs, there are a lot of different avenues that you can go through. Littleton does hire me to do it. It's around 14 for the year. We don't stream anything, we record. And we have it available, and we've shared it through Granite North Television's distribution. I've been to a lot of their meetings over the last 5 or 6 years. I've never made a motion to amend or anything, but I think I want to try to amend this one because I think it's a little audacious to go with all meetings. Let's start with a few. I think 2 a month for the select board, that's 24 meetings, start with that. And show the individuals. We have 30 some odd people watching this live stream right now. It's about a third, half of this room. People want to see it. Like I said before, MUR has reached out for a copy of some of this so that they can air it on tonight's news. I'd like to make a motion to amend this to not be all meetings, but just the select board meetings.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend this to limit it to just select board meetings. Okay, we have a second. All right, so what we're voting on now is, I'll read it as amended. To see if the town will take such measures as needed to implement video recordings and streaming of all selectmen meetings in the town of Lancaster, subject to New Hampshire right to know laws. Said recording shall be made available within 5 business days on the town website. What we're voting on now is just to amend Article 33. All those in favor of amending it? We had a second.
Discussion. Can there be discussion on the amendment?
Sure. Yes.
Thank you, Chad. I'm inclined to support this amendment. The only question I have is that the way the meetings are set up in the town of Lancaster, which is throughout the town hall, any expense incurred, any permanent fixtures put in place to the second floor office where the select board meets might be somewhat prohibitive to expanding the concept later on. So that's my only hesitancy. So I would address the select board and say that if this passes, I would hope that they would try to figure out a way going forward so that all the meetings could be streamed ultimately, which would mean probably all using the same room, assuming there's a fixed if there is a fixed process. If there isn't, if it's portable, like the owl and the computer and all that sort of stuff, it isn't such a concern. So that's my only question, or admonition perhaps. Thank you.
Anybody else? That was discussion on the amendment. So now we're going to vote just on the amendment. All those in favor of Article 33 as amended, raise your hands. Hold on, let me get count. 22 for amending it. All those opposed to amending it? Got 14 opposed. Okay, so Article 13 has been amended. Now let me read it as amended. Article 13 is amended to see if the town will take such measures as needed to implement video recordings and streaming of all selectmen meetings in the town of Lancaster, subject to New Hampshire right to know laws. Said recordings shall be made available within 5 business days on the town website. Okay, so we got a motion to move that forward as amended. In a second. Okay, any further discussion on Article 33? Rob?
I'd like to speak to the amendment in that at the Lancaster Conservation Commission, we Zoom our meetings and make them available to the public. One of the reasons we do is because we've had occasion in which various members have been out of town, but the COVID governor's ruling allows them to participate from out of town. Our chairman has been able to run some of our meetings from remote. Secondly, some of our commissioners have been in the unfortunate position of having a family member exposed to COVID, so they didn't feel comfortable coming in. So where I'm going with this is I'm uncomfortable with limiting it just to the select board meeting, because right now, as far as I know, the Conservation Commission is the only outfit that's streaming, and the bottleneck is the Zoom license. The current Zoom license only allows one user, and in general, I'd like to see the larger Zoom license, which allows more than one. Unfortunately, the next lowest number is 12. So that's my problem with passing it as amended. And advise me on the process. If I would like to return it to the original with an upper limit on the amount to be spent in the first year, how would I do that?
I would need another motion and another second.
Well, I move that we return, that we amend the amendment to include all town public meetings and a ceiling of $20,000 be put on the article.
Let me read this proposed amended 33. To see if the town will take such measures as needed to implement video recordings and streamings of all public meetings in the town of Lancaster, subject to the right to no laws, up to but not exceeding $20,000. Said recording shall be made available within 5 business days on the town website. Do I have a motion to amend it as I just read it? Do I have a second? Okay. Motion's moved and seconded, so all in favor, as it's been, we're on the second amendment, all in favor of the second amendment? All opposed? Second amendment fails. Second amendment fails. So now we're back to Article 33, see if the town will take such measures as needed to implement video recordings and streamings of all selectmen meetings in the town of Lancaster, subject to New Hampshire right to know laws. Said recording shall be made available within 5 business days on the town website. That is what we were voting on. Peter, you got a comment?
school district's been doing this for 5 years. And unbeknownst to many of you, there's quite an enclave of Lancaster residents in Utah who watch those school board meetings religiously. I visited a relative there a year or so ago, and I was amazed at how current those Lancaster natives were with school operations and fits and starts and so on. We also, Flume also is streaming basketball games. Good grief. That's really integral to our lifestyles, is watching basketball games from throughout the North Country. Who the hell could have predicted a pandemic where we were all stuck in our living rooms with nothing but a television to watch, or the web, or Facebook, or whatever people are into? Streaming's become ubiquitous, and it's time we join the 21st century, in 2021 and the 21st century. I fully support this. I think it only strengthens our democracy. It only strengthens the intelligence of the voters and what they vote on and how they vote. And I'm all in favor. Thank you.
Okay. Ben?
Benjamin Gations Olson, 77 Prospect Street. I just want to first state, personally, I don't particularly support this. I'm just kind of queasy around cameras and stuff, mainly probably because of my language occasionally. Some of you know me, you'll understand. But specifically on this particular article, my concern is the cost, the potential cost. Rob throws out there is some infrastructure. We really don't have any infrastructure. Using an owl in order to broadcast a full public meeting is not ideal. Owls are typically used for board meetings where the owl can be placed in the middle of a table and you can hear it. If I was from here to Ms. Foss and I was the owl, she would be able to hear the speaker come out. It's not, I've used it a couple times for public meetings at the beginning of COVID. It doesn't work well. Mr. Christie has admitted to me that his attempts at Zoom meetings for the Conservation Commission have been less than ideal. An owl isn't going to solve that problem if it's a larger group meeting. So if it does come down to streaming, whether it just be select board meetings or all public meetings, and let me just throw out public meetings. Colonel Town Spending Committee, Library Board of Trustees, Budget Committee, Select Board, Planning Board, Zoning Board, Conservation Commission, Trustees of Trust Funds, Colonel Town Investment Committee, and there's many others. So if it's expanded to all public meetings, then that will be an excessive cost and maybe not for a grand return, because as a chair of the Library Board of Trustees, it's in a fully handicap accessible building. I can't think of one meeting over the last decade plus that we've had one member show up, one member of the public show up. So is streaming it going to be a benefit to those people at the cost? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I think if maybe starting with the select board meetings, that's fine. But understand there's going to be a cost to it. And Mr. Christie himself has expressed concern about the cost of doing business, and he supports some and others, which is great. But I think we all need to understand that when you're creating a new system, it is going to create costs. And Mr. Revere's point about the school board, that's great, but the school board has an IT staff that sets that up and monitors it, and it does it. If you have an individual like Ms. Baker here that does the minutes for a lot of meetings, or myself, that all those meetings I mentioned, I probably go to 50% of them, and I'm trying to facilitate those meetings, I'm not going to have time, or either Ms. Baker or the other clerk, to monitor that system and to make sure it runs appropriately, because God forbid, if we're trying to stream stuff for transparency, if the system goes down by accident and nobody identifies it, then what kind of outcry is going to come down upon those individual boards? So that's not to say that if the community as a whole thinks this is a great idea, we'll do our best to make it happen. Personally, like my own personal reasons, I get squeamish right now. But just understand what the cost is. It's not as simple as saying, You plug in an owl, you log in a Zoom, and the world has Lancaster on the TV. It's not that simple. So I think that there's, did I go over a minute?
You're over 2, buddy.
You can take my 2 minutes.
I gotta stay fair. Yeah.
I think that's a bunch of obstructionists, you know what. All the towns around the state do it. I just don't get what's the matter with this town. I have been using my Apple phone for the last 2 months to record the select board meetings. It can be as simple as that. And I think that there are so many reasons to do it. So many people do it. Why can't we, why can't the board come up with an economical solution to do this? So we can all be more informed about why we're spending $1 million on a water tank or whatever before we get to this meeting. Thank you.
That's what the budget committee's for.
Okay, I have a motion to move the vote. Hold on a second, I got a motion. All right, I got a second to move to the vote. All those in favor of moving to the vote? Yep, yeah, go ahead. No, we got a comment on the motion to move this on.
I've been to countless town meetings. I've recorded many of them for the newspapers. And, you don't have to go too far from here to find a town where the town moderator says, more or less, we're going to follow Robert's rules, but I'm not going to limit discussion. We're not going to move a vote. We're not going to accept a motion to move a vote if anybody else in the room has something to say. We went through this last year. There were about 30 people that wanted to comment on this very petition, and you shut it down because you wanted a motion to move the vote. This is our one chance to comment publicly, and we limit debate as soon as there's anything that might actually have some opposition or some lively conversation.
This is for everybody to vote on, whether they want to end debate and move to a vote.
My point is, you accepted one of those motions last year, and you shut a whole ton of people off because people were going to miss their 9:30 TV show.
Peter, that is the population. These are the legislators. They have the right to stop discussion if they want.
Well, I urge you all not to vote, to suspend the vote.
And that's your right to urge people not to end the vote. But we have a motion to end debate. It was seconded. So now we're going to vote. All those in favor of ending debate on Article 33 as amended. All in favor? All opposed? Wait. No, this is an article to end discussion. All right, let's do it again, please. Okay, all those in favor to end debate. Seven end debate. All opposed to ending debate. Okay, 27 for ending debate and 24 against ending debate. Based on that, debate would end. Now we move to voting on Article 33 as amended. You want me to read it as amended? Okay, so Article 33 as amended would be to see if the town will take such measures as needed to video recordings and streaming of all selectmen meetings in the town of Lancaster subject to New Hampshire right to know laws. Said recording shall be made available within 5 days on the town website. That is what we are voting on. All those in favor of Article 33 as amended? Keep those up again, sorry. And make sure they're up high so I can see them. Okay, 26 twice. All those opposed to Article 33 of the amendment? Opposed. So, Article 33 fails. Done. Okay, Article 34. Transact other business that may legally come before this meeting. Read, you got something?
Randy Flynn, I'm the fire chief here in town. First of all, I have three things I'd like to address right now, and the first one being Mr. Sampson retiring. As an employee of the town and somebody that's dedicated their town time to their town as much as I have, like yourself, which I look up to you for that, I just want to thank you for all the guidance that you've given me all throughout the years, and wish you well in your retirement. Second of all, Dennis Patno, who retired from the town after several years, just want to thank you for your service as well. And I'm sorry my voice is a little shaky. I don't like talking out loud in a crowd, but I just want to thank you for your service, Dennis. It's been a pleasure working with both of you, and I wanted to thank you for that. Third is, with all the changes, I wanted to congratulate Ben Olson on his promotion in time, and look forward to working with you. But most importantly of all, I just wanted to thank Ed for being the mentor that he has been with me. Thank you. And the fact that I don't do anything.
Anything else? I'll take a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor of adjournment? Thank you, folks. Have a good day.
Yeah, Randy beat us to it.